Imagine a world where access to clean water and reliable electricity are not basic rights. Yet today, over 2 billion people lack access to safe drinking water and electricity, and the number is expected to rise. What if the solution to both of these global crises, water and energy, could be found in the abundant power of the sun? In this episode of the Good Viral podcast, we're diving into the inspiring work of GivePower, an organization that's revolutionizing how we think about clean energy and humanitarian aid. By harnessing solar power, GivePower's solar water farms are producing life-saving drinking water in areas devastated by water scarcity, while also providing sustainable electricity to fuel local development. Water scarcity is more than just a humanitarian crisis. It's a political, economical, and human rights issue that threatens to amplify conflict, food insecurity, and poor health. Lack of access to electricity is no less devastating. Energy poverty affects millions of people, leaving communities with impaired health, low educational performance, and worsening gender discrimination. From communities in Kenya's largest slums to the remote villages of Haiti, GivePower's work is about more than survival. They're lighting up homes, schools, and healthcare centers while transforming lives with the gift of clean, drinkable water. This isn't just another charitable mission. This isn't white saviorship. It's a blueprint for sustainable change. How are they making this happen? What's the connection between solar energy and clean water? And what can we learn from their pioneering approach? Get ready to hear stories of survival, innovation, and hope. Tales of communities empowered by electricity and clean water. This episode will show how you can be part of the solution to bring clean water and power to the most vulnerable communities, one drop and 1 watt at a time. Welcome to the conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Good Viral. Today we have Michelle with GivePower, and we're so excited for you to be here, Michelle. Thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Such a pleasure. Happy to be here this morning.
The first thing is, as far as your company is concerned, we want to know a little bit about sort of the origin stories and also for you personally, how you got started. And so can you give us a little bit of a background as far as how the organization came about and then how your involvement with them came about?
Yeah, you bet. So our founder's name is Hayes Barnard, and Hayes and I met, it'll be 20 years ago in February. I was managing radio stations in Sacramento, California, and he had this little mortgage company. And he was buying advertising on our stations. And so Hayes and I got to know each other over lunch one day. And at the close of that 3-hour lunch, he asked me a question. What I would have to have accomplished by the end of my career to feel as if I spent my time wisely. And it's such a great question. And I sat and reflected for a minute. And, I was raised in a family where we were sort of taught that we are all given unique gifts for a purpose. And for whatever reason, since I was a child, I had this passion for working on education in Africa. And so I shared it out with Hayes that, someday I would love to be able to use whatever skills I had developed to go and work in Africa on education problems. So that was in 2005. I quit my job in radio and joined Hayes, and we started 4 other companies together in the years thereafter. And that mortgage company grew to 600 employees in 2.5 years. It was just a real rocket ship ride. And in 2009, if you might remember, the economy was not so great around the world, and particularly in mortgage. And we used to set our New Year's resolutions together. And we were sitting together and talking about what we wanted to accomplish the next year. And out of the blue, he said, let's go build a school in Africa. And I remember thinking, first, I can't believe he remembers that little conversation. We'd never revisited it. And second, we're broke. There's no way we can go and do this right now. And he said, no, let's just go ask our friends and family to make contributions and let's go build a school. I think our leadership team needs a more grateful perspective. So Hayes and I raised the funds privately, and we took 8 of our senior leadership people and we went to Mali, Africa, and we built our first school. And as we were sitting in this little village in the pitch dark, we started talking about the solar company that we had just started. And hey, wouldn't it be amazing if someday that solar company got so successful that we could come back and bring electricity to this village?
Mm.
Well, flash forward, and in 2013, that solar company had gotten very successful, and we sold it to Solar City, who was 38% of the solar market in 2013. And as part of that acquisition, Hayes and I went to work for Solar City in San Francisco. One of the first things we did was to take the CEO, Lyndon Rive, with us to Nicaragua to install a solar system on a school. And that was the first that was built. And by the time we left that village, Lyndon made this promise that for every megawatt of business that Solar City installed in the U.S., he would pay to power a school in a developing world. And so over the next 3 years, we powered over 1,500 schools in the developing world just with Solar City's support. And we kind of learned, people came to work for a different reason. Yes, they were joining the clean energy movement here in the U.S., but they had a higher purpose in bringing clean energy into the developing world as well. So in 2016, we sold Solar City to Tesla, and that little CSR program was spun off into a separate 501c3 that we now call GivePower. So in 2016, we started raising money from, other high net worth individuals, other companies, and we started building bigger solar projects. We still powered schools, but we started looking at hospitals and medical clinics and fire stations and conservation parks, all of the things around the world that need power. So, flash forward to today, and we have now powered 2,434 schools. We've electrified 205 other large projects. And we are now focused on the water problem and desalinating sea and brackish water sources to create clean water for people around the world. And so our projects span 28 different countries today. This year alone, we'll build 55 more. And all of that said, you guys, I still feel like we are so in our infancy. There's so much more that needs to be done to provide energy to people in need. That, time is of the essence, and we have to grow really fast in order to help meet the needs of the world.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's amazing and a cool story. And in a very short amount of time that you've been able to grow these businesses, sell these businesses, and then create all this impact. That is pretty astounding. Kudos.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment here, if it's okay. I'm blown away by. It's almost like it came from nowhere. This idea. I mean, I was, before, obviously, in getting you on this call, I was looking at who you are now, what you guys are up to. I'm really impressed. But I love that story about literally it was just some ideas that you guys had way back when. I mean, it's a beautiful story. It really is. And so hats off to you for, all the efforts over the years. And so anyway, I know Anastasia wanted to ask something, but I wanted to say that because it really, I don't know what I was expecting, but that was not what I was expecting to hear. So that's really cool. Yeah.
Well, it's one thing that I would say to your audience, you guys, had I not shared that dream in that conversation, I don't know that GivePower would exist today. And so it's one of the things that I try to tell everybody I get the chance to talk to. Share your dreams. As much as they might not seem to apply in the moment, you never know how those might develop over time if you just share with others your aspirations.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. Sounds a bit familiar, huh, Daniel? Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I was looking on your website just to kind of get a bit more of an idea of the scope of where you guys are and what you guys do. And on your website, and I'm sure the numbers haven't quite been updated yet, but at the time of the website posting, it said you have brought 886,000 people clean water. And I was like, I
I'm more of a visualized person. So I'm like, how big is that? It's a number, but it's hard to kind of visualize that. So I was like, what are some cities in the world that are similar in numbers, And so I was like, okay, 886,000 people is more than the whole city of Seattle. It's almost the size of Charlotte in the US, and it's almost the size of two Miamis, the proper city of Miami. And then if you go over to Europe, for our European listeners, it's larger than Venice and almost the size of Edinburgh, Scotland. And I just I've been to many of those cities, and I was just feeling that's a lot of people. I was like, oh my gosh, if you just walk around Edinburgh, imagine all those people not having access to clean water. And then all of a sudden, GivePower comes around and is able to help those people facilitate those needs. And that's absolutely fantastic. So I just kind of wanted to give our listeners the opportunity to have an immersive idea of what that actually might feel like, is walking around Charlotte in the US and being like, this whole city didn't have water at one point and now it does. And it's fantastic. And so, but tell us a little bit of a specific story maybe that can help us kind of identify the problems and the solutions you guys really give. Something that maybe helps pair a bit of how you bring water and electricity together to someone or to some community in need.
Yeah. So Anastasia, we do need to update the website. I was just in Kenya. I got back last week and we opened 2 new solar water farms there. And so we rolled over the 1 million person mark. We are now,
wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's a big milestone for us. We're now providing access to clean water for 1,023,000 people around the world. But there are 1.4 billion that need clean water. We have a lot of work to do. So stories, yes. I think one of the things that I enjoy about working with GivePower is we really believe sustainable transformation starts with clean energy. And what I mean by that is you can go into a community and you can fix the water problem. And that's great. It improves health. It improves the economy. Kids aren't sick, so they go to school more regularly, all of those things. But that's one problem. When you then go back into that community and you power the school and you power the medical clinic and you power the food processing center, we get the chance to truly transform life in that community. And so GivePower's motto is give good and power better, which means giving these projects is really good, but it's the empowerment of the people who live there to use them in a way that solves their own problems that is really where the magic happens. And so, one of our large contributors is a company called ServiceNow. Our partnership with them is just amazing. I'm so grateful for their support. They have put together a coalition where they come in and they provide the water in a community, and then they bring their partners in to help power the school, to power the medical clinic, and so on. It's been really inspiring to see a corporate donor bring their family and friends with them in terms of their business relationships to help make a difference in these communities.
Truly. I'm imagining that our listeners are hearing this and realize that it's great work, but I'm trying to sort of visualize myself, right? So what it's like. So some of the places that you've been to, that you've visited, that, for example, a place that has no power, that has no clean water, can you share with us like some sort of what it is that you see with your own eyes, and why is the need there? What's really the need out there?
Yeah. So one in particular sort of comes to mind. I was in a very rural area of Kenya, which is where we do a lot of our work. And I went out to a community that, was down a dirt road. And I sat with our interpreter, as I often do, and having conversations with people who live there. And there were 2 women I'll never forget. We were coming down this dirt road, and there were just tattered, kind of sparse palm trees. And there were spray painted symbols on these trees. And when we got sitting down with these 2 women, I asked the interpreter, what is the purpose of the markings on the trees? And one of the women explained that marked ownership. And so she was completely dependent on one tree for her livelihood. It provided palm leaves that she could sell for people to use as roofs. It provided the fruit that she would chop up and sell or eat herself. And she tapped the tree for its sap to make candles. And so it suddenly happened to that tree. Her source of income was gone. And her income paid for water. Almost exclusively. And water for her was very, very difficult to get because there were no wells in her community that had fresh water. So she had to have it couriered in on a little motorbike on a regular basis. She was paying an exorbitant amount of money for that water. And they were living in the dark. And I remember going back to my team and saying, okay, we've got to find a way. We have to find a way. Kenya was experiencing the worst drought that they had seen in 40 years. And I just kept thinking, if that tree dies, what happens to these people? We have to find a way to reduce the cost of water. We have to find a way to bring electricity. And so I was really excited when we built one of our solar water farm Mobies, which is our smallest unit nearby, and we're able to provide water at 1/10 of the cost that she had previously been paying, so that the income that she did make from that tree could be used for other things to improve her life.
If you're feeling inspired by Michelle and the mission of GivePower, but you're still asking the question, what can I do to help? There are plenty of ways you can help right now. First up, consider donating time or your funds to support their initiatives. Even $1 a day or even $1 a month can go a long way. You will find a link to their website in the description wherever you're listening or watching this episode. Every dollar and every minute makes a difference. If you're looking to get hands-on with GivePower, please do check out their website and their volunteer activities. There's always the power of social media. Please like, comment, and share this episode to spread awareness and inspiration so that others can also take action. Remember, together, we can create massive and positive change. Now, on to the rest of the episode with more inspiring stories from Michelle. And as always, thank you for being part of the conversation.
Wow.
That is amazing.
That's a great story.
You know, I think we can take for granted, right, what electricity brings us, what just fresh water can bring us. I was traveling in the Philippines for a little bit, and this is, you know, their needs are not quite what some of Kenya's needs are, I should say, but they do have to ship in their water. And I was being taxied by this person to the airport, and we had about an hour to talk. And, you know, I asked him, does everybody collect rainwater? Because they have these big jugs, right, to collect rainwater. And they said mostly no, they do when it does rain, but mostly they get it shipped in. The problem was this was on Cebu Island, and they normally don't get typhoons. One day they did get a huge storm that came through and pretty much wiped out the electricity, wiped out the roads. So they couldn't quite get their water to places that needed it. And that was for months. And they were so dependent on shipping the water, right? And so like you're saying, if there was a drought, if that tree died, or what if the water wasn't able to come into that area anymore? You know, there's so many factors when you're dependent and when there's not water source right there. And so I think it's really important for people to understand it looks in so many different ways, and just having access to water and how that can change things in a minute if it's just disrupted. And so I think it's great that you guys are bringing them something that not only brings on the cost, because if most of your money that you're trying to make just goes towards water, you don't have the availability to really have aspirations for much else. And so I think you're giving more opportunity to be inspired and to dream a bit more, right? And so I think that's also great and liberating for people. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly.
Can you share also something you mentioned? It sounds like you guys are sort of in a way like adopting a community. Like you said, it's not just one project, but you might be starting with one and then working on several projects with that community. Is that right? Is that how you sort of work? Can you explain that a little bit more, that process?
Yeah, sometimes that's the case, and we call those transformation projects, where, for example, on the north coast of Colombia, La Guajira is the poorest district in Columbia, and we chose to really focus on that region about 4 years ago. Today, I think we've powered 16 schools. We have a water project there. We powered a food processing unit. And so there are points where we really do try to go deep in order to really lift people out of poverty in a meaningful way. However, there are other projects that are just unique. We just finished 2 communities in Zambia. We're working at a hospital in the DRC. There are those scattered needs as well that we're leaning on. A lot of those projects are in partnership with other large nonprofits. And so if you think about it, the world's biggest problems need electricity and their solution. Healthcare needs power. Education needs power, water needs power, so on. And so we work very closely with World Vision and Beast Philanthropy and Conservation International. When they find a project that they want to, problem they want to fix, they call us to bring the electricity to that project. And so in those cases, we may not be working on the whole community. We're going in for a specific purpose.
I thought it was really interesting. You just said I cannot say it. Beast philanthropy. Thank you. That's such a hard word for me. You just said beast philanthropy. Wow. Okay. You just said Mr. Beast. You just said Mr. Beast and his philanthropic channel. So I just introduced Damien to Beast Philanthropy on YouTube and who this person is. So that's really cool that you've been able to work with your own projects to combined projects to large projects and these big names like Mr. Beast, which is really great. It's a testament to me, at least, to the credibility a lot in your organization, that you're a trusty organization to work with. And so I just kind of wanted to get a little shine for that.
I just, what I was thinking about, because you said that you started with Hayes, several different companies, and it sounded like one of those companies was the solar company, and that was, I suppose, that it sort of must have sprung from an interest in clean energy, but in California, right? Isn't that where it, and so it was really, I'm just sort of going back and trying to make the connection from then to now. So basically, I guess the main focus, you might say, or correct me if I'm wrong, of your company has more to do with going to these various places with the help of support and donorship, and that's to help people. And can you tell us about that connection and how that is these days?
Yeah, So kind of taking you back to that conversation of the lunch, I turned the question back to Hayes and said, well, you have to accomplish that in your career to feel as if you spent your time wisely. And, he was raised by a single mom. Money was always very tight. And so he had a passion for saving the average family money on their everyday bills. And so we started that mortgage company first because that's the biggest bill in anybody's budget. And we thought if we could save money there, that would make an impact. And then we opened an insurance company to save them money on their car and auto and life insurance. And then we started the solar company to save them money on their electric bill. That was sort of the ethos of the companies that we started. And the categories that we went into. So I can't say it was a passion for clean energy at the time. It was really in this budget issue we were trying to address. So today, we ended up selling that insurance company. We sold the solar company. That little mortgage company is now called Good Leap. Good Leap's valuation was $12 billion a couple of years ago. It's done extremely well. And it does. That company is transformed now into a financing company for clean energy products. And so Good Leap is one of the largest lenders for solar systems here in the U.S., but they also finance roofing and windows and all of those sorts of things that you would want to look at in order to make your home more sustainable. And they still do mortgages. And so Good Leap is our largest donor today. And their contributions cover 100% of our administrative and support costs. So any other donation that we collect from an individual or a company goes 100% to projects in the field. So we're really, really lucky to be able to make that promise to our donors that their funds are going to go immediately to people in need.
That's fantastic. Yes.
There was an interview we did with Unbridled from Colorado, and they did something rather similar in terms of they were going to be in business for doing good things. And one thing I really heard from that was exactly that, is like, let's create companies that are fighting to not only do good things for the customers, but to do good things for our neighbors as well. And I think that's really, really cool. So wow. I get all teary-eyed. I'm like, it's so beautiful. It's pretty wonderful.
I feel you, girl.
You know, you probably have projects always in the work, but one project that I thought was really interesting and that you mentioned as well, which is desalinating water. And that's, you know, taking ocean water essentially and turning it into fresh water we can drink and use on your land. And, you know, there's places in the world that definitely need that help. But you always hear that from the big rich countries, you know, from the United Arab Emirates and to the Saudi Arabia. But tell us how you're bringing that to more or less the common folk, as you could say.
So, you know, as wonderful as it is to bring light to a child in her school, if she doesn't have clean water to drink, she's not at school. She's sick, she's taking care of loved ones, she's fetching water, things like that. And so we kind of saw this problem as we were out building projects. And in 2017, we hired a team of engineers to start working on a solution for clean water. Now, desalination is not new. You know, the technology, to put it in super simple terms, is that you take salty water and that has other impurities as well, and you push it through a membrane whose holes are many times smaller than a human hair. And the salt and impurities stop on that side of the membrane, and the clean water proceeds through to the other side. Okay. It takes a tremendous amount of energy to push that water through a membrane. And so historically, desalination has been reliant on diesel, you know, dirty energy, and it's very expensive because of that. So our innovation was really connecting solar and battery power as the power source for that desalination process. And by doing so, you can put these systems in areas that aren't grid connected, you know, out in a rural village. There's no cost of fuel to keep operating, you know, so on and so forth. And so we built our first system in 2018. And that first unit is called Max. It can produce up to 75,000 liters of clean water a day for people. And we really focus on drinking water. You know, we encourage people to continue using their wells and boreholes and things like that for their washing and cleaning, but use that water to drink and to cook, to maintain your health. And so we won the World Water Awards in 2020 for the technology. We've been in Fast Company's world-changing ideas in 3 different categories. We won the Energy Globe in Kenya for the technology. Because it is unique. These are not big commercial units. They are small and meant to be community scale for drinking water. And they have that clean energy independence to ensure that they remain productive for 20 years. So every time we build one of these systems, we are making a 20-year commitment to continue its operation within that community.
Mm. Oh, that's really great. That's really great. And can you share with us then, is that your main focus right now as a company? Like what is exciting for you, like lately, like when you wake up, you know, what's the thing that you're really excited about working on right now at this moment?
Yeah, I have one project in particular that I'm just giddy about. We are expanding our water projects into Tanzania. And I visited Dodoma, the capital, in January of this year, and I was meeting with the Ministry of Water, talking about water problems with them. And it was just, you know, I call these God winks, when you're just kind of in the right place at the right time with the right people to do something kind of special. And I was sitting with the ministry, and I was explaining our technology, and he stopped the meeting and he said, our minister was on the campus of the University of Dodoma 2 days ago, and they have 35,000 students at this university, and they only have 50% of the water that they need in the dorms to support those students. And so the students, understandably, are kind of in an uproar about the water problem. And so the minister promised in that meeting that he would bring a solution to the university. Well, the problem while doing this is that the water is salty, and they had no way to fix that. Just by happenstance, we walked in 2 days later with desalination technology, looking for a project, and Tanzania is our first flagship project in the country. And so now here we're deep into the development of that system. So not only will we have a max on the campus providing clean drinking water to the students, but we're going to utilize it as a training hub for students to learn about solar and water purification. And as they're trained, and we create curriculum at the university to help these students learn about these important areas, we'll also be able to hire them for our African projects.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm super excited about that particular project. We work with USC and Georgetown and Stanford and University of Texas, here in the U.S., but now we'll have an African university where we're also investing in students' futures.
Oh, that's great.
That's really cool. I've been to universities where they have their own electricity production area, whether that's more, I don't know, is it nuclear based that they're doing it? I'm not sure, but I'm not a science girl. I'm not sure if these universities are doing nuclear science or solar, but I know that they definitely exist. And I think that's so great that that's coming to this university, that you guys are able to bring sustainable, super sustainable ways of not only bringing energy, but also bringing desalination technology. That is absolutely fantastic. Wow. So hopefully I'm going to go find that university and follow them on Instagram, because I'm like, I really want to see how this goes. This sounds great.
Yeah, for sure.
So, one thing I'd love to hear about is transformational stories of how people feel. So, you have all these projects, and you mentioned this woman with the tree. I'm not sure if you've been able to follow up with her exactly, but is there a story out there where you can tell us a bit about how people feel before and after you've been able to work with the community and really build something that down the road, a year or so later, how are people feeling? How are they transforming themselves?
Yeah. So one of my favorite parts of GivePower's work is our ability to create jobs, for people in these communities. And it's not only the employees that we hire and train and so on, but it's also the donkey owner who now has a clean water source and he can distribute water in his community. There's all these sort of micro businesses that have an opportunity when we go in and bring power or water there. But the one that comes to mind is actually about an employee. We were opening one of our solar water farms, and I was there for the grand opening celebration. And when I have those opportunities, I really try to engage every staff member in conversation and get to know them a little bit. And this one woman I remember at our project in February, and there was one woman in particular that, no matter what I did, I just couldn't get her to engage. And I ended up sort of deciding maybe she didn't speak English. She wasn't confident in a language gap. And so I let her off the hook and kind of moved on with the introductions. A year later, I was back at that same site to celebrate their 1-year anniversary. And we had this beautiful little dinner for the staff, and the site manager asked one of the employees to give a blessing on the food before we started. And this elegant woman with, the most electric smile stood up and gave it, literally, I think, the most beautiful prayer I've ever heard in my life. It was just brings me to tears even thinking about it now. It was really, really special. And after the dinner, I went to the site manager and said, "Who was that?" And And she said, Michelle, that's Marcella. Marcella was the cleaner, the woman who I couldn't get to engage a year earlier. The cleaner at these sites is our most humble entry-level job. Marcella had been promoted into our sales manager at that site. Just about 6 months ago, I got the opportunity to congratulate her on being promoted to run her own site.
Wow.
And that's what we get to do. You know, in GivePower, we like to say there are angels in need of wings all over the place. People who are passionate and hardworking and smart, and all they need is a chance to be able to use those gifts in their communities. And so it's one of my favorite parts of the job, to be able to see the evolution of our employees as they spend time with us and get those opportunities.
Wow, great story. Great story. Can you share with us, so for our listeners that are excited about what they're hearing, what's the one place, the best place for them to connect with you all, to offer their support, to be involved interactively in one way or another, or to donate? What is the one resource that you guys would recommend for our listeners to get in touch with you all?
Sure. So our website's probably the best place, givepower.org. And I'll give you just a handful of ways that we engage with people. Our work is only possible given donations. And so contributions are always incredibly appreciated. This is the water problem in particular, you guys, is solvable. You know, it costs us with our maxes $1 a year to provide access to clean water for somebody. We call it our 20 for 20 program. A $20 donation creates access to clean water for 20 years for somebody.
Wow.
And so for those who are able to make a contribution, you know, $20 a month provides a new person access to clean water for 20 years. And I recognize not everybody can quit their job and go to work for a nonprofit, but you can become a champion in the company that you work for putting a corporate social responsibility program in place. Back to that Solar City experience, we really learned the value of in culture within a company when you're gathered around a mission that's beyond the core business in giving back in a meaningful way. And so, again, on our website, we have a program called Give Partners. If you think your company might be interested in putting together a CSR program with us, you know, submit a little inquiry form and we'll get back to you and teach you how to do it in a really easy, turnkey way. And then lastly, we take groups of donors on treks. So we've taken over 1,000 people in groups of 10 out into the developing world. You live in a community for a week, and during that week, you build a solar project. Now, these are typically those school projects where you get the opportunity at the end of the week to flip the switch and really be a part of what it feels like to bring impact to the community. And it goes back to that original trip in Mali. You know, had we not been sitting around the fire in this dark place, we might not ever have thought about GivePower and what it's now become. So we like to give these groups the chance to unplug and go out and see life in a different way, and hope that those magic conversations might flow during their experience.
And I like the little pun you put in there. You can go in and unplug and go somewhere else. That was good.
That's right.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for being with us on the podcast. For those who are listening, please go to the website, donate, go on a track, follow the social medias, share this episode to anyone who you feel like needs some inspiration, because I'm inspired. This has been fantastic, Michelle. Thank you so much for you being here, and thank you so much for GivePower and your team for doing what you do. It's amazing, and keep hustling.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for your podcast, you guys. The world needs more positivity. Thank you.
Well, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for listening to the Good Viral Podcast and being part of the conversation. If you are inspired by this episode, go to our website at goodviral.org.
where you can find resources and listings from the episode to continue good efforts.
Like, comment, and share this episode to any or all of your social media channels. It's really easy to take a small action, and maybe you'll inspire a big result.
When good goes viral, the world gets better.